Welcome to the Daily Dev Talk with me, Adrian Nantchev, where we explore and share experiences, stories, and lessons 7 days a week from across the games industry, helping you make the best game you can. Stay tuned for today's episode. Good morning, Overload Nation. Welcome to another episode of the Daily Dev Talk, talking to game developers from across the world to bring you experiences, stories, and lessons 7 days a week. Today, I'm joined with Robert Dunlap from Extro Cold Games to talk about his first game, Shmadow. Robert, talk about yourself first, please, and how you got into the games industry.
I went to college here in San Diego at University of California, San Diego. I was enrolled in the computer science program. And one of my friends, Alex Fabresh, who's currently working at Pocket Watch Studios here in San Diego as well, he invited me to go to the video game developer club that he had pretty much started at UCSD. And so I got started there. I was primarily taking it from the avenue of like an experience from working on a software project within computer science. Um, and then we did some small projects there. A lot of it was mentoring other students who had a lot more experience of how to build video games, but I came in with the experience of making large scale software projects. From there, I took CSE 125, which was um, network. It was a networking class. So we built multiplayer video games within the class. I think the professor says like large scale distributed systems. So I took it during my junior year, and we made a tower defense game. It was 8 of us on the game. It's about 30 people in the class. It was a really really great class. And then during my senior year, I was looking at. I already finished most of my curriculum, and then I was like one class short to sort of be like full time on my last quarter, and one way or another, one professor went on early retirement, and the other one went on sabbatical, and I had nothing else to take. And so I talked with the professor again for the video game class. I was like, hey, I don't have anything to take. Um, is there any way I could be involved in the class again? And he offered me a teaching assistant position for the class. So then I helped put together a team with my friends, Alex, Nicole, um, and it was 8 of us, and we went through sort of like a month before the class, like already preparing of like, hey, what video games do we want to make? Here's all of our different ideas. And then we made Broadsides. It's a pirate sort of like sailing game, arcade, like deathmatch. We made it during the class, and we put it up on Greenlight after the class, and that was back in 2012 when Greenlight just sort of started. And then it didn't really go. It didn't sail anywhere. It didn't go much very far, and everyone sort of went their own ways. I got a job up at Microsoft working on Windows 10 or Windows 8, and then Windows 10, and then so I did that for 2.5 years, and then during December, uh, we Broadsides was greenlit, and I had a couple life changes. So I was like, yeah, this is a good point in my life that I think I'd like to move back down to San Diego and start my own company and do the game development stuff here. So that's how the studio started, and Shmadow was actually Gary and I had started it as part of a VGDC project. To It was a game jam, and so we built it during that. The theme was lights and shadows, and so we're like, oh, let's make a shmup, and then that's how we got Shmadow. And so for us, that's really like the start of, hey, this is our first project, real project. Let's get it to release and use it as a learning experience for us to build bigger games.
That's cool. So it started off as kind of accidental, and you were teaching it, and you were teaching your own field
Yeah.
within the industry in a way. That's different. So tell me about your studio,
Um,
Extra Cold Games. How many people? What's the structure like and such?
so there's five of us in the studio. Bobby Rose is our composer. He's in LA. He I met him at UCSD, and we it was one of my lab partners, friends, and so we met together, and we always talked about like, hey, if we ever put together like making video games, he's like, yeah, I could do the music, and so he was doing his master's up in Seattle, and I still kept in contact, and then I was like, yeah, let's do this. So he actually works on some movies with for AMC, and he's been doing the music for us from LA. Then we have Gary Stenford is working on programming with me, and then we have uh, Katie working on art, and my sister's helping out with marketing. She's an MBA student here at SDSU. So
That's pretty handy and that's pretty cool.
yeah.
It's pretty cool. So tell us about Shmadow,
Mhm.
and what you wanted the player to experience.
Um, to us, it was sort of like we wanted it to be a difficult shmup, where you you are playing as the light, and you don't see all the enemies on the screen. A lot of them are hidden, and so the obstacles are they're apparent, and you have to think very carefully. And that sort of just evolved out of playing the game. Like we didn't go into it designing like, oh, here's this big picture and idea. We wanted to do something fun, and it sort of just organically generated itself from there. Of hey, here let's put in some bosses, let's put in some these different enemies, let's put in these power ups. Like what's next? How can we improve it next? And that's how we've taken the game development route for Shmadow.
Cool. So it started off with the base idea that you're the light, and it just slowly grew and grew.
Yep.
Because you had more ideas, you just plowed more time into it, or
Yep. Yeah, it was just one more time. So we started it in 2012 from the game jam, and then we picked it up I think about twice to sort of add in some more things here and there, and then we got it ready for Xbox 360. We were going to do the um, Xbox Live in the arcade, and we submitted there, and we got a lot of really positive feedback. But a lot of at that time, I think it was about 2013. It died down like for the voting system. It was very tit for tat, and it was actually against my work contract to vote on other people's things. And so everyone was like, yeah, you vote on everyone else's thing, and you tell them to vote on yours, and that's how you get through the voting process. And then I'm like, well, I can't vote on anything. So it sort of
mm,
just died out of there. And it's like, yeah. And it's weird because compared to Greenlight, which is you start the process and then it just keeps going. And that's eventually how Broadsides got greenlit, was it was just there for such a long time that enough people saw it, even though we didn't do any promotion. Uh, and we'll eventually do Broadsides at a later time once we're waiting to get the artist who originally worked on it to come back and work for us. So
mm-hmm.
crossing our fingers for that. We want to bring back the team.
For a sequel.
Yeah. Well, to
That's
make to
cool.
give it a good release, because right now it's been greenlit, but it still needs to be finished up and polished up.
Cool. Interesting. Cool. So tell me, when it came to promoting Shmadow, what worked and didn't work so well?
Well, we're still in the greenlight process. We released it on itch. So right now, we did the normal like Facebook, Twitter. I went through a lot of gaming communities that I was affiliated with at different points in time. That actually seemed to be the most helpful. And then sort of from there, our next stage is to get a hold of like Let's Players and Twitch players, and just sort of getting the name out there and people to see it. But a lot of it right now has been just gaming communities.
Any specific gaming communities you used or contacted?
So the two big ones that, I guess three big ones that I've been in contact with. One's Obelisk Gaming. Another is called RSOC. It's a Xbox One subreddit. and then Evil Toaster. But between the three, like they've been really great at. They want to play the game, try it out, and they've been really enthusiastic about it. And so that's from there we've been pulling people like, hey, you want to play the game, test it out, give us your feedback, and I've been using that to get new blood into playing it out or play testing it. We've also been going through the our GameDev subreddit every week, putting up on Feedback Friday and all the different screenshots Saturday, soundtrack Sunday, marketing Monday, just being a part of that, both seeing what other people have and commenting back, being good community members, and then like, hey, here's Shmadow, and give it a try and get it. We got a lot of really good feedback out of it, so it's been a good process.
Oh, that's cool. Some interesting subreddits as well, worth checking out.
Yeah,
And these places like Obelisk, Arsox, and Evil Toaster, they have a lot of potential as well to get your game out there and other such things.
yeah.
So tell me, how was the game funded? And again, what worked well and what didn't work so well?
So it's been personal funding. So that's how I've been going through it. I saved up some money while working at Microsoft, and then that's been how we've been operating. So
Mm-hmm.
it's sort of like the plan is like, hey, let's run the company for 2 years. If it works out, then it works out, and if not, then it's a life experience. So that's the game plan.
Wow. And just yeah, see what happens after 2 years.
Yeah. So that's sort of like the business plan for us is like, hey, we want to make 3 games, which is Shmadow, Glacia, which is a city builder role playing game. I've always wanted to build it, like, and everyone's like, you're crazy. Why are you trying to build like do all this stuff? And that's like Gary's like, why are you trying to do these things?
Wait.
uh,
People thought you were crazy to build an RPG or a business.
no,
uh,
for it's a
And
city. It's like two separate
yeah.
games. It's a city builder game and an RPG game, and the magnitude of it is
Uh,
on the size of like Dwarf Fortress with graphics and multiplayer. Um,
wait. So this is one game that's both
yeah,
a
it's both. So
oh right. I
so
thought it was just
I really wanted to do it. Like I've pitched it a lot of times at like for VGDC and other like for like class projects and stuff like that, and everyone's like, no, that's too big. And so I'm like, well, I guess I own my own studio, so I can do whatever I want. So
yeah.
we're gonna give this a go, and that's the big project that for building Extrapole games was to like I to me it was like when Towns was first announced. Um, I wanted Towns to be a good game, and then it just fell through with that they just took the money and ran. Um,
Hmm.
where it's the premise is like, hey, um, you build up a city and adventurers, and then you use those adventurers to go dungeon crawling. Um,
Ah, interesting. Well, I wouldn't say that's too big. I don't understand the whole premise of it, like what you're gonna do,
yeah,
because that
no,
Towns is an interesting
I,
idea and inspiration.
I think it would have been a really great game, Towns, if they put it together right. And I think that's the example of like the Kickstarter green light stuff going wrong, right?
Hmm.
I think there's a couple examples of that, and so we've been a bit standoffish for like using Kickstarter for funding
Hmm.
because we
Okay.
don't want to get the like. I mean, while it's good to build up expectations for us, we want to get a more complete project before putting out there, which is for Shmadow, we waited a bit before we got a lot of the gameplay done. Just like,
Hmm.
hey, here's the gameplay trailer. Here you can play the game. Like that's the state of where it is. Like you can play the game, you can enjoy it. In and of itself, you could say it's a complete game. We still want to polish it up and add more to it, but at any state, someone could play it and be happy with it. Where a lot of other early access games or Kickstarter and stuff like that, it's like, oh, I want to do this giant project and I've never built anything in the past, and give me money to throw down a hole.
Yeah. Proof of concept.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So I'm curious also, what was cut from the game and why?
I'm sorry. Oh, for Schmack.
What was yeah, what was cut from the game and why?
Was anything cut, Gary? Oh, online multiplayer is still not implemented. um, we'll maybe do it, maybe have it got. We right now it's been like, is there enough enthusiasm about the game to merit going in and doing that work for it? And
And it might also be a low priority.
yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is we don't want to have the traditional like connect via IP that some games have, like Risk of Rain or Terraria. If we do online multiplayer, it's through Steam. You click on your friend and you're able to join. But a lot of that
Mm.
is, again, we have to play it, and our fears with latency, since the game's very fast paced, that it might not feel as fluid. So um, we'll see how it turns out. I think it could be a good feature, but I think that was the main one that we pushed back to cut off.
Yeah, it's fairly understandable.
Yeah.
I'm also curious as to what the biggest thing is that you learned while working on Shmadow.
Um, how to work with Unity. I think that was the big project that was Shmadow in a nutshell. It was, uh, I mean, it ranged from everything like setting the project folder to text only, because prior to that, like Git was just like having a field day at like destroying Unity project.
Hmm.
So in one of the settings, that was like one of them. I mean, it's been going through a game from beginning to end. I we got approval for PlayStation, for PS4 to launch. It was communicating with them. Xbox has still been super flaky, like twice now that they've just dropped the ball on emails, and I need to send them another one to be like, hey, do you guys want the game or not? Like, like
Hmm.
just give me an answer. I'm okay with either one. Just I need an answer.
Hmm.
But they've been very like, oh yeah, we'll get back to you in like 7 business days, and never hear back from them again. Um,
Hmm. A bit of a cheeky way to treat an ex Microsoft employee as well.
I never mentioned it to them, but
All
I have a
right.
lot of friends in Xbox. If I need to ping them, I can. But I've been like, hey, I can do this myself. So what is the
Ah,
normal process that people do? But yeah.
I get you. I get you. So, what was the worst thing that happened while working on the game, and how did you overcome it?
I think the worst thing was that the Git setting for Unity project. I mean, that was like, I think for a while we were really pulling hair about why every single time we were trying to commit the project, it would just be very unhappy, with merges. But I mean, that was a very simple thing. Like, yeah, you look it up online. A lot of it's been just um, finding people to play the game, to test it, give
Ah.
feedback. The hard part has been a lot of people are like, yeah, it's a really great game, and I'm like, okay, but where's the where's the room for improvement? Um,
Hmm.
has been It's been hard to sort of pull teeth from like, hey, where do we go from here? And it's been good here and there, like on the GameDev subreddit, that people they have a lot more to say, so that's been a place to go.
Yes, that's an important part to know what people think and the feedback. Because the way I see it is that if you, as a game developer, wouldn't play the game you're making, then the audience won't pay for it.
Mhm.
If I won't play it, I won't pay it.
Yeah. That's very true. And I think the hard thing for marketing wise has been, um, like sending a screenshot of the game. It doesn't give it justice of the
Hmm.
gameplay. Is because we're using geometric shapes, and like it's all lighting. I don't know. It To me, screenshots never look good unless it's an artsy game. It
Hmm.
never gives the game justice, and when you play it, it's a different feel. And so it's been more about like, hey, get your own opinion about the game on the green light, and
Hmm.
I mean, that's always the comments from green light's always hard to sort of digest, as people. people will be sort of trolly on there or very negative Nancy about taking it. And I'm like, hey, if you want to play the game, let me know what you think. If you still hold the same opinion that, it's a negative, you don't like the game, then that's a fair feedback. But if you never played it, then it's I think that's the main problem with Greenlight is people can promise the world and then it get voted on, or be real pragmatic about like, hey, here's the game in its entirety, and people want the hype. Like that's where they vote is the hype.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, the hype. Yeah, when there's no substance to it, and then these things like towns happen,
Yeah.
and it does a disservice. So, what was the best game dev purchase you made? Whether it was a software license, a top quality piece of hardware or equipment, or simply a comfortable chair and a good desk.
Whiteboard. Whiteboard. Uh, yeah, our process has been using post-it notes on a whiteboard for sort of managing like our next features to do. We have a wall of post-it notes for the next game, um, and right now we still been. I mean, even though we've been doing a lot of work on Shmadow, we still have just as many post-it notes on the board as when we started. um,
Mm.
but a lot of it is like for like Xbox and PlayStation and Steam. A lot of the consoles or the system specific information that needs to be sort of done, like achievements and leaderboards and all that fun stuff. Some of those can actually be removed to finish things. Yeah, the trailer's
Well, cool.
done.
I think
But
I feel it's a very great way of understanding what tasks you've done and realizing what has been done, and also there's that satisfaction of removing things. So as to think, yeah, I've achieved that, that can go now,
yeah, you
be
get crunch it
thrown
up
away.
like, yeah, done with that.
Exactly, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, furniture wise, we got our stuff from IKEA. I mean, we shopped around a couple like used furniture places, and it ended up being like the same price as IKEA. And you, the IKEA stuff is just so much better quality. I mean, it, it definitely was the right choice to go. Like between like IKEA and Costco, I think it was like 90% of the stuff that we have. Um,
Okay, okay. So IKEA came in very useful.
Oh yeah, definitely for sure. Because we were like, oh yeah, we can find some things off of like, used furniture, and like, no, it's people overprice that stuff, and it's
Mm.
scratched up, dinged up, marked up, and it's the you go to IKEA, and it's the same price, and it's so much better quality.
Mm.
It's
Cool.
the experience, and we built all the computers from Newegg. I think that we saved some money there. I mean, that's um, I think they ended up being like $500-600 or so the computers, but really good quality, like all the pieces, and we know what's in it, and we know how to put it together. I think the only cost is time. That was the big
Hmm.
thing was time. Like we're like, oh, why don't people just buy their own computers? It's like, well, here we're spending a day putting all this stuff together. Um,
Not bad.
but we got the PlayStation 4 test kit. That was a bit bigger purchase that we made, like hardware wise. It was good. I mean, I think it saved us a little bit of time between requesting one from them because they do offer loans for
Hmm.
where we're like, yeah, I think to me it was like, oh, let's get started on this, and then wait for the process of like, hey, you need to get it first. The game has to be accepted all the way through, and um, then you can do a request, and then that takes however many um, weeks before they process it. So
Hmm. So, like a well, no, even what game dev related book, lecture, or learning resource can you recommend?
I mean, the game dev Reddit, I think, is the best source of information of hundreds of people um, asking the same question that you had and providing the best answers that you could find on it. I think
Hmm.
a lot of it, Stack Overflow has some stuff. not as much. But the Reddit/r/GameDev has everything from marketing to game development to art to music. Like everything's there. And uh,
And
book wise, I mean, I remember reading a lot of books like during college, and if you're building your own engine, I mean, there's a lot of like game jam books that are good, that have very detailed papers on building the best engine you could. But a lot of that comes out of date, and I think that as a game developer, you want to spend your time building the game, not a game engine.
mm,
And so, I think that's why a lot of game developers use Unity or use Unreal. Is you know there are a lot of hard problems that have been solved by other people, and you want to make the best use of that, and not reinventing the wheel.
yeah, I understand definitely because it's all there, it's all pre-built.
Yep.
So, like an Evernote or Trello, do you have a useful or productivity enhancing software, app, extension, or website
We have
worth
Whiteboard.
sharing? Whiteboard still
Yeah. Best productivity enhancement tool in existence.
best in existence.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can write anywhere on it. You don't even have to be in the lines. Like, you get post-it notes. You can organize them however you want. You can get
Yeah,
magnets. I mean,
yeah.
it's
You can any font you want,
yeah,
all sorts of stuff.
and it's
Wow.
permanent.
Okay.
You can't lose the information. Like, your
Yeah.
computer crashes, it's still there.
No. The audio always works on it as
Yeah.
well. So, okay then. Okay, Robert. What advice can you give to aspiring game developers, small indie studios, and people trying to get to where you are today?
um, I think keep at it. I think that's it's tough sometimes to sort of go through, especially at the start. It's very easy to sort of jump between, like, oh, I want to do this and then I want to do that, or abandoning projects. I think that's the big thing that a lot of game developers don't spend enough time doing, because they're like, oh, let me think about doing something different, a different way, and, or it doesn't become as fun. I think that's the biggest thing is people don't see like what at the very beginning you're having a lot of fun, like, oh yeah, this is really cool, I'm learning a lot of things, and then you get into these hard problems, whether that's drawing a lot of tiles at 60 fps, and you know you have to look up a lot of sources about how to optimize the things, and you know you'll hit A star multiplayer marketing, whatever different difficulties come in your way, and you have to stick at it, right? You can't just, oh hey, look, an obstacle, let me run away from this. I think that's the biggest thing, is sort of building that up, and you need to not set yourself up for failure either. I think that's for Shmadow, is get a game that's small in scope. Start with that. You have to start small. What is the minimal viable product? What do you consider a success? What's what's the smallest amount of, this is the game and this is how it runs, and build it from there. And I think that's, a lot of times people want to build the world, and you have to start somewhere, and then from there just build it bigger and bigger and bigger as you progress. Or once you get there, once you get to that goal, you can keep at it. You can keep building the game up for, oh, let's add in bosses, or let's add in these different features. I think that's the biggest thing that a lot of game developers, or early game developers, like people just learning programming even, um, hit that wall. Go to school.
Def- go to school.
I think like
Simple.
learning programming or art in a professional environment, I think is very useful. I've seen a lot of people sort of like try self teaching themselves, and while it works, and for some people, you have to be very, very self-determined to get through that. And the biggest thing is networking. I think that's in a school environment, you're going to learn, you're going to get a lot of contacts of people in your fields, people in different fields who are studying that stuff, right? I think that's the networking aspect of school is the biggest thing that people put off to the side. It's not of, oh, I can teach myself. Practice a lot, do a lot of small projects, do it on your free time. Even if it's just playing around with Unity and don't get bogged down in like I see a lot of people with Unity like spending a lot of money on the asset store for things. And I don't see the value in that. Like you're not learning what it is that how it was built in those cases, and sometimes they're not the entire what you need. While yes, it might not be the best thing to build an entire engine from scratch. You need to understand what is it that they're doing. For Unity, it's hopefully the networking, but for the most part, it's that they've ported Mono to a lot of different systems. That's the hard work that they did, which is you code the graphics to one thing, and then it works, between Linux and Mac and Windows and phone and console. And so that to us, that's why we chose Unity. If XNA was still a thing, I think we would still be using that. But it's definitely lost some of its with the lack of support. But even just using XNA Mono Game is a good tool. I mean, it's a really great framework, and it doesn't have as many smoke and mirrors as Unity does. I think it's a good place to start for game developers.
So what is next for you, Robert? And what's the best way to contact you?
I'm always on the TeamSpeak. We have a TeamSpeak that we run, extracoldgames.com, which is not our website, which is extra cold, but we run our, we have both a external web server and then the internal one that we have at the office in case we want to play Terraria or Minecraft and stuff. But what's next is just keep at it, keep playing the game and getting people to play the game and building it from there. The next game that we have, we've been working on it since we started the company. Kate, that's what Katie's been doing is working on the art since we sort of knew, hey, there's two of us programmers and one artist, so she's going to need a lot of lead time before we can to give her time so that when we catch up, that we're not like, hey, we need this now. So I think that was a good pipeline process of like understanding like, hey, where are the time sinks in the game? So we went through that. But yeah, that's the game that we're working on. Next is the City Builder RPG Galatia. That's the big project.
Yeah, the ambitious one.
Yes.
Well, Robert, it appears that we're out of time for this episode of the Daily Dev Talk. It's great talking to you, and a few things worth considering and worth remembering.
Good talking to you.
Especially these places, the Obelisk, Aerosoc, and Evil Toaster, to get other gaming communities involved. Cool ideas and cool things worth considering. I wish you well on this new RPG, business adventure, everything all in one game. So stay tuned, Overload Nation. More videos to come. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Daily Dev Talk with me, Adrian Nantchev. If you are a game developer that wants to get your name and game out there and to share your experiences and stories, or you have feedback or opinions of the show, then contact me at info@gameoverload.co.uk. That's info@gameoverload.co.uk. Stay tuned for tomorrow's episode, more to come.